Hello everybody, welcome to my presentation on dynamometer type instrument. In this presentation we are going to see the construction and working of dynamometer type instruments. I am Swati Pulasa, lecturer in Electrical and Electronics Engineering, Sanjay Gandhi Government Polytechnic, Adilabad. Getting into the presentation, dynamometer type instrument is also called as electrodynamometer type instrument is a transfer type instrument. Let us see what is a transfer type instrument. A transfer type instrument is one that may be calibrated with a DC source and then used without modifications to measure AC. So a transfer type instrument is an instrument that is used for DC source and without changing any calibration, the meter as it is can be used for measurement of AC. So this is the definition or meaning of a transfer type instrument. Now let us see different parts of dynamometer type instrument. Here you can see for a figure of dynamometer type instrument. We can see that there are two coils here and here. These two coils are named as current coil. So these two coils are current coil. They will both be having same number of turns. And you have another coil here. This is pressure coil. And if you check out for the connections of these two coils in the circuit, we have source and we have current flowing through the current coil, and it is connected in series with the load, and we have potential coil connected in parallel with the source. So with this we can see that a current coil is connected in series with the load and potential coil in parallel. With reference to the figure, we can see that we have current coil. Those current coil are fixed, and we have potential coil. From the figure it is clear that pointer is attached to the potential coil, and this pointer is capable of moving over a calibrated scale. That means potential coil is attached to the moving system. Hence, we have a moving coil, and we have control springs, damping equipment, shielding equipment, and scale. I'll repeat again. The main parts of dynamometer type instrument are fixed coils, moving coil, control springs, damping equipment, shielding equipment, and we also have a case. So the salient features of fixed coil. They produce magnetic field required for instrument. They produce magnetic field required for the instrument. and the fixed coil is divided into two sections. To produce more uniform magnetic field at center, we have two fixed coils, and the gap between two fixed coils allow the passage of instrument shaft. Let us see this again. To produce magnetic field required for the instrument, fixed coil is divided into two sections which facilitate to produce more uniform magnetic field at the center and to allow the passage of the instrument shaft. They are wound with fine wire, that means a thin wire, fine wire for using as voltmeter, while for ammeter and wattmeter it is wound with heavy wire or thick wire. So here the fixed coil, when you want the meter to work as an ammeter or a wattmeter, the fixed coil is wound with thick wire. But when you want it to work as a voltmeter, the fixed coil is wound with fine or thin wire. They are varnished and baked to form a solid assembly. After the two coils are made, it is varnished properly and baked properly to form a solid assembly as shown in the figure. Here, this is a solid assembly. It was possible only when winding is done and they are varnished properly and baked properly so that the wire do not come outside of the coil. The solid assembly makes construction rigid. So even though you move it, move the meter, you handle it in improper manner, then also no wire comes out of the coil. They are mounted on ceramic supports to reduce eddy current loss. If they are mounted on a conducting material, then we would have eddy current losses in the core. Hence, this time in dynamometer type measuring instruments, they are mounted on ceramic supports in order to reduce the eddy current loss. It is an air cored coil. So we have air core. They're wound on non-metallic former to reduce eddy current loss. Now we are coming to the features of moving coil. So we had a moving coil in center of two fixed coils. So that moving coil features are that it has air core. It is wound on a non-metallic former to reduce the eddy current loss. It is located in between two fixed coils and spindle is supported on jewel bearings. The moving coil is attached to the spindle which is supported on jewel bearing. Coming to the control torque. Control torque is produced by two control springs Springs also act as leads to the moving system. If you remember, in previous video lectures, we have seen permanent magnet moving coil system. In that permanent magnet moving coil system, we used spring control and as a control torque to produce control torque, and those springs that were used were also doing two jobs. One is to produce control torque, another one is to close the circuit to act as a lead to the moving system. Hence, here also for a dynamometer type, we have a moving coil, but instead of fixed permanent magnet as we had in PMMC, for this dynamometer type moving coil system, we have two coils to produce magnetic field. That means here, instead of permanent magnetic field, we place our moving coil system in an electromagnetic field. So the moving system contains a moving coil mounted on aluminum spindle, control weights, pointer, control springs. Coming to the damping, damping is provided by air friction. We have two aluminum vanes attached to the spindle at the bottom, and these vanes are moving in sector-shaped chamber. We have seen air friction damping, which is in other words called as pneumatic damping, in our previous video lectures. Coming to the shielding, the field produced by fixed coils is very weak. For less current, it will produce very weak field. For more current, a bit more field. Hence, overall, we can consider that the field produced by the fixed coil is weak compared to permanent magnet. Hence, it is nearly 0.005 to 0.006 Weber per meter square or Tesla. So see, it's very weak, very less, and hence shielding is very necessary to protect the instrument from stray magnetic fields. When the magnetic field inside the meter itself is very weak, external magnetic fields can easily influence the working of the meter. Hence, shielding is very, very important for dynamometer type instruments to protect the instrument from stray magnetic fields or external magnetic fields. So shielding is provided by high permeability alloy casing. So we have seen different errors in MC meters and permanent magnet MC meters and moving coil iron meters. We have provided shielding. So for the casing, there will be a high permeability alloy lining so that the magnetic fields from the external side will not enter into the meter. Coming to the scales are hand-drawn using machine subdividing equipment. Most of high precision instruments have a 300 mm scale with 100, 120 or 150 divisions. So it's high precision, you can see over 300 mm scale, that means 30 centimeter scale, we have around 150 divisions or so. Now coming to the working principle of dynamometer type instrument. How basically dynamometer type instrument works. We have two magnetic fields produced. One is the magnetic field produced by the current coil, and the other one is magnetic field produced by a fixed coil. Fixed coil is current coil. So I should be talking in terms of fixed coil and moving coil as of now. And later on you will understand why it is called as a current coil and why a potential coil. So in the figure that we have seen earlier, we have seen that here it is called as a current coil. Let us call it as a fixed coil instead of current coil, and let us call this one as moving coil instead of potential coil. We will see later on why it is specifically called as a current coil and why potential coil. So the interaction of flux produced by fixed coils and moving coil will produce the deflection torque. So we have two magnetic fields and the magnetic field polarity, and those two magnetic fields will have an interaction, and hence we have moving coil moving because of production of deflection torque. For PMMC, the magnetic field was the same all the times as the field was produced by a permanent magnet. And we had a moving coil inside, and that means when the coil is carrying current, the current carrying conductor experiencing the magnetic force when it is placed in a magnetic field. That was the situation in a permanent magnet moving coil. Now in dynamometer type, it is the same concept, but here we have magnetic field produced by another coil called as a fixed coil. Again, we have a moving coil carrying current placed in a magnetic field produced by fixed coil instead of a permanent magnet. Again, when you allow current through the moving coil, so it is the same concept, but here we have two fluxes produced by coils. Hence we state in this manner that the interaction of flux produced by the fixed coil and moving coil will produce the deflection torque. Now what happens if there is reversal in direction of flux? When there is reversal of direction in flux, each time the current through movable coil reverses. Hence, unidirectional torque would be produced for both positive half cycle and negative half cycle of the supply. We will look into it. So here you have a current coil. Say this is what we call as fixed coil, and this is our moving coil. Now when current flows through this coil, here you have current split in fixed coil as well as in moving coil. Here it clearly states that when you have source, say we have an alternating source, you will be having alternating currents flowing through the current coil and the fixed coil. But the point to remember is the frequency is the same. Why? Because they are coming up. It is nothing but a split current from the source. That when we had a positive half cycle of the source, we'll be having positive half cycle for same duration in current coil and positive half cycle for same duration in potential coil. Now when we have, because of current through current coil, there will be magnetic lines of force as shown in the figure. Say it is in this manner for positive half cycle. And because of that, we have a current carrying conductor placed in a magnetic field, so it should be experiencing a force. So let the force acting on this potential coil is as shown in the figure. So say this is the force acting on this potential coil. This is because of there will be flux produced in the potential coil and flux produced by the current coil, which is a moving coil and fixed coils. Hence there will be movement in a moving coil because it experiences a force as shown in the figure. So far so good. Let us discuss about the negative alternation. Now when there is a negative alternation of source current, you will be having negative alternation of current in the current coil. That means current in the current coil is no more this manner. Now currents will get reversed. So you have source current this manner. So current in current coil is reversed. Also the current in the potential coil, which is a moving coil, is also reversed. Well, let us see what happens when current in the fixed coil is reversed. When current in the fixed coil is reversed, the magnetic field direction is no more from left to right as shown earlier. So it will get reversed. So the magnetic lines of force will get reversed as shown here. Now when the magnetic field direction is changed, and let us see the current through the potential coil or the moving coil. If it was not changed, the force would have been reversed. But here we see that the direction of current in the moving coil is also reversed. Hence, the force direction is going to be the same. Hence, we will have torque produced in same direction. Here, in our case, it is going to be clockwise direction for the deflecting torque. Hence, the dynamometer type instrument can have same direction torque for both positive and negative alternation of the supply or the source. Hence, they are capable of measuring AC currents also, AC quantities also. Hope this is clear. That is what is mentioned in principle of working. First, how it works? It works by interaction of the flux produced by fixed coils and moving coil as it produces the deflection torque, and there will be reversal in direction of flux each time the current through movable coil reverses, and hence a uniform or unidirectional torque produced for both positive and negative half cycle of the current. We will go for the torque equation. Let I1 is instantaneous value of current in fixed coils. I2 is instantaneous value of the current in moving coils. L1 is self-inductance of fixed coil. L2 self-inductance of moving coil. Because the coils are very near, let M, its mutual inductance between fixed and moving coils. We have fixed and moving coil very near with a small air gap. Hence, there is every possibility to have a mutual inductance. Let it be capital M. Now let us discuss about the flux linkage of coil 1. It is equals to L1 I1 plus M into I2. Flux linkage is equals to inductance into current. Hence, if you see the flux linkage of coil 1 is L1 inductance of, it is the self-inductance of fixed coil into I1 plus mutual inductance M into I2. So this I2 is current through moving coil. Now let us see the flux linkage of coil 2, which is a moving coil. It is equals to L2, which is self-inductance of moving coil, into I2, current through moving coil, plus M, mutual inductance between fixed and moving coils, into I1. This you must have already studied in basic electrical engineering about the electromagnetic fields, magnetic fields, self-inductance, mutual inductance of a coil and a circuit. Electrical input energy is equals to E1 I1 dt plus E2 I2 dt. So we know that energy is, here we are just trying to write the input energy. It is power into time. So for a small infinite simul time, it is going to be E1 I1 dt plus E2 I2 dt. Now we can write this E1 I1 dt as I1 in change in flux linkage of coil 1 d psi 1. Similarly, E2 I2 dt can be written as I2 into change in flux linkage of coil 2. How did we arrive it into this manner? Let us see. It is as we know that Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction says E1 is equals to d times of flux linkage of the coil by dt. So hence E1 is equals to d psi 1 by dt. So d psi 1 would be E1 into dt. In the similar lines, we will be having the same for E2. Hence, we had this equation. Now the electrical energy input is this. Now if we derive D this one I1 into d psi 1 plus I2 into d psi 2. We are trying to write psi 1 as L1 I1 plus M I2 and psi 2, the flux linkage of coil 2 as L2 I2 plus M I1. Hence, we are just replacing it here. Now let us derive it. We will be having I1 into dL1I1. dL1I1 can further be written as L1 dI1 plus I1 dL1. Now if we multiply with I1, it becomes I1 square dL1. So let me derive it for you in detail on here. So I'm just trying to expand this one so that the same will be applied here and you can do it on your own for this part. We have I1 d times of L1 I1 plus I'm splitting or distributing I1 and differentiation here m times of I2. Only this part. So we will be having I1 into, so I have to expand it, dL1 I1 into dL1 plus L1 into dI1. Here also I1 into m into dI2 plus I2 into dm. Now if I multiply I1, I'll be having I1 square dL1 plus I1 L1 dI1. For this side, this term would be m I1 dI2 plus I1 I2 dm. You can see this whole for only this term. So let us cross check. We had I1 L1 dI1. I'm underlining it. Then I1 square dL1. Yes, we have. And I1 I2 dm, right? And I1 m di2. I1 m di2. So only for this part, when we expand, we get it like this. Similarly, for this part, you will be getting this long simplification. Now, energy stored in magnetic field. So we have seen that we have self-inductances L1, L2 and mutual inductance M. So energy will be stored in magnetic field in those inductors. Hence, it is given by in L1 magnetic electric field electrical energy stored in magnetic field is given by half I1 square L1. Similarly, the energy stored in magnetic field in coil L2 because of inductor L2 is half I2 square L2, and magnetic field energy stored in magnetic field because of mutual inductance would be I1, I2 and M. We know that energy stored in magnetic field would be half Li square. So in an inductor L, when current flows through inductor is I, the energy stored in inductor would be half Li square. Of course, inductor will be storing energy in magnetic field only. So applying the same formula, because we have L1, L2 and M, and in L1 the coil we have I1 currents flowing, and for L2 we have I2 currents flowing, and for mutual inductor we'll be having currents in fixed coil as well as moving coil. Hence we place this manner. Now the change in energy stored. So I'm going to derive this whole. When I derive this whole, I'll be writing it this way. So derive each term here. I'll be having half Here again I have two terms. Let me derive only this term for your convenience. Rest the things you can do it on your own. So I'm deriving half I1 square L1. Half is a constant, it will be coming outside. I will be having I1 square dL1 plus L1 derivative of I1 square, which is 2I1 dI1. Okay. 2I1 L1 dI1. Now when I take half inside, I will be left out with half I1 square dL1 plus half and 2 will get cancelled out. I'll be left out with I1 L1 dI1. So when we derive this first term, we are left out with half I1 square dL1 plus I1 L1 dI1. So let us cross check. We had I1 L1 dI1 and half I1 square dL1. Similarly for this, we'll be having I2 L2 dI2 plus half I2 square dL2. Again, when we derive this portion, we'll be having, we have three terms. So we will be having I1 M dI2 plus I2 M dI1 plus I1 I2 dM. Hope you have understood this. So finally, we have arrived to an expression for change in energy stored in magnetic field. Now, total electrical input energy is equals to change in energy stored plus mechanical energy. So when we give electrical input to the system, there is some energy stored and there is some movement in the coil. So movement in the coil is what we call as mechanical energy, and energy which is stored, that is in magnetic fields because of L1, L2 and M. So we have law of conservation of energy, and by law of conservation of energy, we can say that total energy input is equals to change in energy stored plus mechanical energy. So we have already derived expressions for total energy input and change in energy. So we can now write that mechanical energy is total energy input minus change in electric energy stored in magnetic field. So we will cross check once again. So we have total energy this way and change in energy stored this way. So this minus this should give you the mechanical energy by which your coil is moving or deflecting torque is produced. So when we deduct these two, let us try to simplify. So I'm subtracting this with this. So I'll be having minus of this whole thing. I'll just cancel out when I find like terms. I1 L1 di. I have I1 L1 di and I1 L1 di, so I can cancel it out. I1 square dL1. Here I have half I1 square dL1. So when I subtract these two, I'll be left out with half I1 square dL1. So this term is also done. And I have I1 I2 dm. So I1 I2 dm. I have one I1 I2 dm here. So let us cancel it out. and I1M Di2. I1M Di2. So let us cancel this one. I2 L2 Di2. I2 L2 Di2. Cancel it out. I2 square dl2 and half I2 square dl2. So I will be left out with half I2 square dl2. So this term is also over. I1, I2 dm, it will be there as it is, and I2m di, I2m di. So I'll have I1, I2 dm. So these are the terms which are left out, and let us check the same will be there. So we have half and here is it. So here we had half I1 square dl1 and half I2 square dl2 and plus I1 I2 dl. That is what we have uh, got when we simplify it. Hope you have understood this. So now L1, L2 are self-inductances which are constant. So we have this term to 0 and this term reduced to 0. So the mechanical energy is equals to I1, I2 dm. So this is how we have simplified. So now suppose Ti is the instantaneous deflection torque and d theta is change in deflection, then the mechanical energy is nothing but work done for movement of the coil, and it is Ti into d theta. So Ti into d theta is equals to our mechanical energy, which is same as I1 I2 dm. So from that we can easily get that the Ti, which is nothing but deflecting torque, instantaneous value, it is equals to I1, I2 dm by d theta. I1, I2 dm by d theta. Now for DC, I1, I2 dm by d theta, we have spring torque for control system. We know that the spring control torque is equals to K times of theta, where K is the spring constant. Now at equilibrium, the control torque is equals to deflecting torque. We had deflecting torque as I1, I2 dm by d theta, and control torque is K times of theta. From that we can write that theta is equals to I1, I2 dm by d theta by K. So this is how we get expression for angle of deflection. This is for AC, hence instead of instantaneous value we put its values directly. Now for AC, there will be some phase difference between the quantities, hence it is written as theta is equals to, if phi is the phase difference between the two quantities, angle of deflection is given by I1 I2 by K into cos phi Tm by d theta. So this phi is phase angle difference between two quantities I1 and I2. Now let us see our dynamometer type instrument, how it works and as a ammeter. So when we have thoroughly seen the construction of the anemometer type and how the deflection torque is produced and how the angle of deflection is for DC and for AC, let us directly check the connection for the dynamometer type instrument, how it works as an ammeter. So it is connected in the circuit shown here. We can see that the fixed coil and the moving coil both are connected in series. You can see here clearly, again I'll show. So this is the source, And here we have fixed coil and we have a moving coil. These are connected in series, but our fixed coil is having a shunt from, we have seen shunt in our previous classes. It is used to increase or extend the range of ammeters, and we place shunt parallel here. We place shunt parallel to the moving coil here. The moving coil is this one, and we place the shunt here, and this is our load. So finally this will measure the current to the load. How? Let us see. We had our equation like this: I1 I2 by K dm by d theta. Let us go for DC first. Say this is a DC. That means I1, actually in our formula, I1 was current through fixed coil, I2 was current through moving coil. For AC, I1 was current through fixed coil, I2 was current through moving coil. Phi is phase angle difference between current through fixed coil and moving coil. M is mutual inductance between the fixed coil and moving coil. So this was our expression. Now here we have I1 is equals to I2. So when I1 is equals to I2, we will be having theta is equals to I square by K dm by d theta. That means the deflection is proportional to the square of the current. So that's how we have angle of deflection proportional to the current, which means now the meter is ready to measure currents. The same thing is mentioned here. A shunt is connected across moving coil for limiting the current and also to extend. Limiting the current indirectly means the extension of the ammeter range. The reactance resistance ratio of the shunt and the moving coil is kept nearly same so that the meter is independent with the supply frequency. Otherwise, it will behave a bit for one frequency and otherwise in other frequency. So this is one way to reduce the errors in the meter. Hence, we have to make sure that the reactance to resistance ratio of the shunt and moving coil is to be, it should be same. We have seen the same point in earlier presentations. Now, since the coil currents are same, the deflecting torque is proportional to mean square value of the current. Thus, the scale is calibrated to measure or read RMS value. So for DC, the reflection of the pointer theta is equals to I square by K dm by d theta, as we have seen. For AC, it is going to be 1 by K dm by d theta, 1 by T root over 0 to T I square dt. Now, for sinusoidal, if we give two sinusoidal currents which are out of phase by phi, then we have theta is equals to I1 I2 by K cos phi dm by d theta. Please make sure that you understand these two. Here it is AC. It need not be sinusoidal all the times. But when you be particularly look into sinusoidal, so here we have the expression I1 I2 by K cos phi dm by d theta. Let us see the electrodynamometer type voltmeter. Electrodynamometer type instrument can be used as voltmeter by connecting large non-inductive resistance of low temperature coefficient in series with the instrument coil as shown. So here we have our moving coil. This is our fixed coil. You can see that current is flowing through the fixed coil. And we have R here. This R is non-inductive resistance and it will have low temperature coefficient. That means for different temperatures, the resistance offered is the same, and we have negligible inductance. That means L is completely zero here for this coil, and it is connected in series with the moving coil, and this is how it is connected. And because we are measuring voltage, this meter is supposed to work as a voltmeter. It is connected parallel to the load. Here we have load, so meter or the measuring instrument is connected in parallel with the load, and we have, instead of just having moving coils and fixed coil, we have a resistance connected in series with the moving coil. Of course, here all the coils are connected in series, and there is another non-inductive resistance connected in series. Why we have connected this resistance is because the instrument is connected in parallel with the load. It should consume very less current, and that resistance to the current is offered by R. And here, because there is very less current flowing through this, the current through the current coil and also pressure coil, or here we call it as a fixed coil and moving coil, is proportional to the voltage across the load. Hence, this meter measures the voltage. Coming to the wattmeter, electrodynamometer type wattmeter is the instrument. This is the instrument connected across the load to measure the power. So the current is divided into two parts. One part, I1, flows through the current coil. Here the fixed coils are called as current coil. Why? Because the current coil is made up of thick wire, because it means that when coil is made up of thick wire, it offers very less resistance. Hence, the current through the current coil is proportional to the current through the load, because it offers very less resistance. So it should be current through the load. And then we have second part, which is I2. It flows through pressure coil or potential coil, which is nothing but our moving coil. And this is very less. The second part of the current, I2, is made very less by manufacturing our pressure coil in such a manner that it is made up of thin or fine wire. We have seen this in our previous slides, that this pressure coil is made by fine wire. Now here, when it is made by a fine wire, it is going to offer large resistance. So when the coil offers large resistance, current through the coil is almost proportional to the voltage across the coil. That's what we have seen in case of voltmeter. We have placed a non-inductive high resistance over there in addition to the moving coil. Now here also, because by virtue of the moving coil itself, it is made by a fine wire. So the current through the moving coil is proportional to the voltage across the load. Now both fixed and moving coils produce flux between the coils. So this is the circuit again. It is the same. Now you can see that this is the current coil, and this is the potential coil, and this is the load. Let us see how it is connected. Current coil is connected in series with the load, and potential coil is connected in parallel to the load. Why I am saying in parallel to the load? It should be conjunction of current coil and load, because the current coil offers very less resistance. As it is made up of thick wire, the resistance of current coil can be negligible. Hence I say that means there is very less voltage drop across the current coil. Hence I say that voltage across potential coil is same as voltage across the load. Because of this connection, current through current coil is same as current through the load. Hence, our I1 is proportional to the current through the load, and our I2, which is current through potential coil, is proportional to the voltage across the load. Now there will be interaction of these two fluxes and force is produced. As a result, a moving coil will rotate as it is free to rotate. Now the pointer shows corresponding power value on a graduated scale. Deflection torque or force of on moving system depends on current strength. Current strength means current through the fixed coil as well as current through the moving coil. Current in pressure coil is proportional to the voltage impressed across it. We have seen this already. Current in current coil is proportional to current passing through it, which is the load current. Hence, we will have deflection torque proportional to V I cos phi. So thus the deflection torque is decided by product of RMS of two currents into cosine of phase angle and rate of change of mutual inductance. So dm by dt is maintained constant, so I'll just remove it. So we have TD is proportional to VI cos phi. Now the dynamometer type instrument can be used for both AC and DC measurements. If it is a DC measurement, we will have our deflection torque. We actually had our deflection torque as I1, I2, dm by dt. And if you check out for our deflection angle, we had already this. For DC, it was I1, I2 by k dm by dt. And for sinusoidal currents, it was I1, I2 by k cos phi dm by dt. Now here we had I1 proportional to current through current coil, it is proportional to the load current, and current through pressure coil or a moving coil is proportional to the voltage. And here we had the same, and phi is angle between I1 and I2. But what is I1 here? It is current through current coil, and voltage I2 is voltage, I1 is current. They are proportional. So I'm just replacing I1 by I and I2 by V. So this means we have phi as phase angle difference between current, load current and load voltage. So here I'll just remove dm by d theta and k and just replace proportionality here and here. So this is for DC and this is for AC. For DC, let us discuss. I have I1, I2 by k dm by d theta. Dm by d theta is constant, so I'll remove it. K is also constant. So I can say that the theta deflection angle is proportional to, instead of I1, I'll just replace it with I, and instead of I2, I'll replace it with V. So for DC, V power is nothing but V into I. This is for DC, and this is for AC. So power is VI, so it ultimately says that angle of deflection is proportional to the power. The linear scale. And coming for AC, we had I1, I2 by k cos phi dm by d theta. I1 is proportional to I and I2 is proportional to V. So cos phi is also nothing but angle between V and I. So that means if this is our V and this is our I, and this is nothing but phi. Now if I write the deflection angle proportionality, I'll remove k and dm by d theta dt. So instead of I1, I will write it as I. Instead of I2, I'll write as V. Why? Because I1 is proportional to load current, as I have written here already, and I2 is proportional to V, the load voltage, and cos of phi is nothing but angle between I and OE. So this is what we get. The voltage into current into cos phi is nothing but power. So theta is proportional to power. For AC circuits, power is VI cos phi. Cos phi is phase angle between V and I. Here we see the same situation. So angle of deflection is proportional to the power for both AC as well as for both DC. That means the same instrument can be used for both AC and DC. Please note it. Hope you are clear with it. So we have seen so far what is the construction of dynamometer type instrument, and we have seen how to use dynamometer type instrument as a voltmeter, as an ammeter, and also as a wattmeter. The learning outcomes after completion of this video lecture, students should be able to describe the construction of dynamometer type instrument and describe the working principle of dynamometer type instrument. Dynamometer type instrument are used for both AC and DC measurements. How? So this is how we have seen dynamometer type instrument, its construction. So we have seen that while it is using for wattmeter, the fixed coils are called as current coil and the moving coil is called as pressure coil. That's what I have mentioned in the earlier slide. That we'll see why it is called as current coil and pressure coil. It is best suited for wattmeters, and we'll see the image of a wattmeter. This is the image of the wattmeter. You can see that there are different voltage connections given for wattmeter. Now we'll see later on how we connect wattmeter in a circuit and how we should connect these values. We are going to have 4 terminals for the wattmeter. 2 terminals are the terminals of the current coil and other 2 terminals are the terminals of the pressure coil. So the terminals of pressure coil are C and V. The terminals of current coil are M and L. We'll see all of those in our next presentation of video lecture. Hope you have understood. Thank you.